hear you good.
Okay, so we are on hot mic. Really good to see you, Nick. I mean, it's been a while. What, 4 years?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been well, I think our last time was probably at Kent together, right? Yeah.
I remember there was this one time you called me and said, "Hey, I wanted to go to this hackathon. Do you want to team up with me?" And then we joined on a call, and then we submitted a form or something. It required a video formatted thingy, and then we just did
Mm,
together a video, and then we submit. I don't remember what it is, but that's the last memory of
I don't
what we
remember
did
that
together.
either. Frankly, that was so long ago. I do remember us at we worked on some sentiment analysis for banks when we went to Penn Apps together. Do you
Competiton.
remember that?
It's called Competiton. Yeah, I have a picture of it. I was seeing the other day.
Sweet, yeah,
Yeah.
sweet.
So
I fondly remember that, and I remember the demo day because we were I was that ridiculous guy who like took the chair and set it on top of the table for the demo, and then we put the laptop on top of the chair so that way the judges wouldn't have to like
yeah,
hunch down and like look at the demo. That was
yeah.
such a fun time though. I miss those hackathon days, you know. You and I just like grinding for each
Hackathons, I
other.
think I miss big time. It's been a while I did a hackathon. I remember, I think 2 years ago I did an online hackathon. It was in UK. I mean, it was in UK. I did virtually. I ended up winning it. So it's a good good
Hey,
good good
nice.
finale of hackathon.
What did you submit with? What was your project?
It's about finding out a blockchain-based retirement investment portfolio.
Cool. Okay. Very cool. That's gonna be really big in like 10 years, I bet, you know, after
Yeah,
everyone's collected their Bitcoin.
that is
Yeah.
true.
Are you
So
big
yeah,
in
UK,
sorry, it's your interview. I'll let you
uh,
this is your podcast. I'll let
big,
you take it from here.
big as in investment, or big as in applications on blockchain.
Um, well, I'm assuming one feeds into the other.
Yeah, I would say 50-50.
50-50. Okay.
Yeah,
What's the
I mean, I
top
still believe
crypto to buy right now, in your opinion?
right now it's going up. A week, probably 2 weeks ago, Ethereum was maybe below somewhere 1600. It's 1900 right now.
Hmm.
Bitcoin is at 30K, so maybe it's going to go up. I mean, it's really hard to tell what's the volatility of cryptocurrency. So I wouldn't suggest or recommend anyone to put any
Yeah, this is
money into
not
any of
financial
the crypto.
advice.
By the way, you said you are in Colombia. Tell us what made you and what attracted you to go to Colombia.
Well, Colombia is so beautiful. It really is just my favorite South American country. Everyone here is so nice, and I know they get some bad rap on the food, but like I have not had a bad meal here yet. Um, yeah, I love Colombia. I um honestly, New York was just getting like really unreasonable when it came to cost of living. You know, like one bedrooms right now start at like, you know, almost 4,500. That's like your entry point, and um you're spending at least like $200 if you're trying to go out at night, you know? And so I just needed a little bit of a break from that. You know, I was like, my lease is coming up. I decided to sell all of my things, and I came down here to Colombia just to like live a little more reasonably for a while, for a while. So that's really, I mean, there's a longer story than that, but um, that's kind of the gist of it. Is yeah, it's much nicer here. The quality of living's better, and you know, New York is fun, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I love New York City, and it's like the place to be, right? And if you can like make it there, you can make it anywhere. Um, but at the same time, I was just finding myself like stressed out, like every day, every day, just like constant anxiety about, you know, just living in New York, right? So I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, and I think the goal is to eventually get back to New York. But I've been really enjoying it here, and I think I'm gonna just keep exploring around Colombia for a bit.
So you were a New Yorker. You probably lived in New York for what, 5 years?
Yeah, I moved a couple months before the pandemic started, so it felt like 5 years. Yeah, so that was about 3 years
I
ago
used to
now.
see all. Yeah, I used to see all your Instagram stories and reels about New York. New York's a fun place, and I'm surprised to know it gave you so much stress that you had to find another beautiful and calmer and stressless place.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's hard to live in New York. Don't, you know, I think anyone that lives there will admit that, unless they're, too wealthy to worry about that. But um yeah, it's just, it's not an easy place to live. And I think that's kind of the perk is when you get there, it toughens you up, you learn how to work really hard, and you're surrounded by people who are all like energized and working all the time, right? Like it's so normal there to work on weekends. Everyone's constantly working. And yeah, I got really used to like the pandemic New York where it was like quiet, and
Wow.
you didn't have to take reservations. you know, it was that part was really nice, and I really enjoyed like living in New York at that time. But now it's back, right? It's full of people. It's just, it's a lot of stress to be around, and you either get used to it, and taking some space away I think really helps, and it really helps you realize like, whoa, okay, like I don't have to feel so stressed out and like bad all the time, right? Like around all these people. Right? It's a double-edged sword.
Why Colombia? How did you pick Colombia?
Uh, I can get, my Spanish is okay, and um, I have friends who have been here and have recommendations, and um, I came here for a couple weeks last year and really enjoyed it and wanted to come back and see more. So um, it was also the cheapest plane flight out of New York, and so when I excuse me, after I sold all my stuff, I just went on Skiplag and I was like New York to anywhere, and Bogota was the cheapest flight, and I was like perfect. I love Colombia. Yeah, there's
Is
a lot.
Colombia
Go ahead.
again? Ignore my geographical knowledge here. Is Colombia in Brazil, or is it a
Colombia,
completely different country?
it's its own country. It's in South America,
It's its own.
right above the equator, and so Bogota is kind of more inland. It's the capital city. But I've also heard really great things about
Okay.
Medellin, and I was in Cartagena last year for a couple weeks, and that was really nice. Yeah, I would,
So you're in Colombia. Mhm.
yeah, I would say like you know, anyone should come here if they feel they want to, experience like it's kind of like American life, but people are definitely more in tune with like their community, and like people just have more fun. Like they dance in the streets, and like I'm not in like a touristy area at all, which is really nice because um, I'm really just surrounded by like locals, and I'm the only white dude here, and um, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of like a lot of joy here, and a lot of like community, and it's really interesting. I don't see that same thing in New York, right? At least not the parts of New York I've existed in, right?
Understood. So next time if I visit Colombia, I know where to crash.
Yeah, yeah. Come on by. Come on by. Come through Bogota. I'm renting a place right now, but yeah, it'd be cool to buy a spot here. That'd be cool. I can't afford that right now, but that'd be cool.
Cool, cool. So you're still working for an American company, but working remote, living in Colombia, having a good life, peaceful life. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's been really peaceful, very peaceful since I've gotten here. I only got here 2.5 weeks ago, so it's very fresh for me still.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
assuming you're working from home, right? Working from where you are staying, right? So you are not going to office in a Colombian setup. You're working remote and living in
yeah.
Colombia.
Right, right. So for the last couple months, I've been really focused on this game project that I'm building.
Mhm.
It's called, I'm starting this new company. It's like a brand. It's called School Night. And School Night is all about getting people to play more and enjoy the time that they have after work so that they can approach work and their responsibilities the next day with more freedom and more clarity, and hopefully more community and more purpose. the problem I see is like there's so many people who find themselves in a place where they're really lonely and they're really unhappy and they're doing some job that they don't really want to do, but they're just kind of stuck, right? There's too much friction to like get out of that job and like um, do what they really want to do, right? And a lot of people I feel have the capacity for creativity. I think creativity is something that's inherent in each of us, and given the right platform and the right um, space and the right encouragement, I think anyone can really like become an artist or become a creator or like put something out into the world, right? Um, Everyone has some sort of craft, right? Whether it's business, the art of business and talking and deals, right? Or maybe it's like sewing and you're really good at like putting together dresses and hand stitching things. Everyone has like some sort of craft that they want to hone, right? And it feels like um, our society and our economy drives people into these holes where they simply don't have the ability to like express themselves and like pursue the creative passions that they want to do. So school night is all about giving people like a little boost, a little encouragement, a little platform that they can um, take on new creative projects. And uh, we've created a game that anyone can participate in, anyone can play along, and it's really, really easy to submit your art or your beats or your game dev ideas. And it's this kind of collective game that everyone is building all at the same time. And so it streams live on Twitch. It's a game that runs 24/7, and you can play along by going to schoolnight.tv in your uh, on your phone.
That's so cool. I didn't know. I know you founded a company back when you were in Kent and Stowe area. I believe it's about plants,
Yeah, yeah. I've been
right?
doing the founder thing for a while, right? Like at this point, it's like all I know how to do. Um, but yeah, back in college, I did a nonprofit. Um, it was a for-profit, but it was a social enterprise called HomeFed, and we sold
Mhm.
subscription garden boxes to people, which were like these little like starter kits. And it was really popular at like elementary schools, and teachers would use it in classes to like help kids understand like how to grow plants and like how to garden. And so that business eventually turned into us, my co-founder and I at the time, building raised beds in people's backyards and then trying to solve food deserts by giving people access to locally grown produce. Uh, and that was really fun. We did that for um, almost 2 years. We did that for almost 2 years, and I learned a lot about gardening and a lot about plants. And we got um, we got a lot of attention in Akron, the city of Akron, and it was just a really good time. Yeah.
But it's good to know that you have this experience in startup. I know the fact that you've worked in other startups and you founded a new startup which is called SchoolNet.
When I conceptualized the idea almost about 6 to 8 months ago, I would say is when it really started brewing in my mind. I was living in Bushwick at the time with a couple musicians. We had a lot of fun. We made so much music. The artists that I was living with are just so talented and so amazing. One of them was a music producer who's done some work with like Snoop Dogg and Mary J. Blige. Really just impressive people that I had the privilege to like live with and be friends with. And um, so we started getting into Twitch live streaming as a way to start like getting our music out there, and also like we just had fun just like shooting the shit and drinking beers and goofing around on Twitch. Probably doing things that were regrettable at this point, but um, so much fun. And the idea was like, okay, let's just put the we had we had this shitty old couch in our basement because we had this basement in this apartment all to ourselves. But the door wouldn't lock, and so anyone else in the apartment, and like honestly people from the street could probably just like walk in and come down to our basement, and that's where we kept all of our like music equipment. It's where I kept like my PC. And so we decided to set up this live stream, and as security, I'm not telling the story well, but as security, we decided to set up this camera that was just pointing at the basement the whole time, 24/7. And so if anyone decided to steal something, we would see it on our live stream. And so we just started using that as like a place to start just like playing music, and we had some artists come in and um, put on shows in our basement, and the stream just ran 24/7 for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it wasn't super interesting most of the time, right? Streaming 24/7, you're not going to have interesting content for all of that amount of time. So what I wanted to do was try to make some sort of like interactive Twitch stream where it's always playing something and it's always kind of interesting. And um, at the end of the day, it's promoting the music for the record label that those guys started. And that's kind of how the idea for School Night came along.
That's a really unique idea, Nick. I mean, I know we all have so many Internet of Things cameras and like shooting 24/7. In fact, I have one camera in front of my house, another camera behind my patio. It's been streaming 24/7. But the idea of streaming it for a purpose where musicians come and play in that stream and essentially help them to promote their music. At the same time, you build a product along that idea. So that's very unique.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. We'll see how it goes. I I think I drive my loved ones crazy because I'm always trying something new, but the general the general world I exist in is like product and tech and design and startups and that kind of thing. Yeah, my background is in, I went to school for computer science, and so I learned how to code, and I got really into hackathons back in college. I started with an AI company back in 2017. My friends Stephen and Russell and I founded a recruiting platform that used AI to um, help people find culture fit in the jobs that they were applying for. Um, there's a lot of ethical
Concerns.
concerns about that. And so I ended up being away from that. Yeah, there's a lot of bias in the hiring process, and uh, what one company may consider bad culture or toxic culture, another company actually looks for, right? Think about like lawyers, right, who are like driving home, like you have to be online 24/7, and you have to grind on the weekends and stuff. And like some cultures don't appreciate that. Some people just want to go to like their 9 to 5, and they appreciate work-life balance, and they have kids and they want to live their lives, right? So there's no if you ask recruiters, right, there's no like one size fits all like good culture, right? And at the time, in 2017, we just didn't really have the AI technology to like nor the like safety and education around these biases and how to avoid them and training models. So it really just exacerbated a lot of those hiring biases that people would uh, experience, right? So on top of that, yeah, um, the company went well, but we definitely like struggled and pivoted a couple times, and um, so I ended up stepping away from that for a while. But um, yeah, yeah. So that's my background is kind of computer science and programming, and that's how I got my start. And I've always been a coder. Coding is like a really, really important skill that has just been like really invaluable in my career and in my life, and just it enables you to do so many things. And so um, coding was cool, but I always had a knack for more of the design side of things. And back in college, like I always wanted to like do cool website designs, and I always wanted to like make cool posters for our hackathons. Um, and so I kind of like leaned more towards the design world. And I finally got a job as a product designer for this startup called Bada Boom, and they do global logistics um, for international brands. Um, Kind of like Flexport. They're very similar to kind of Flexport and Pietra, if you know what that company is. Pietra, they do like branding and products for influencers. So I got this job. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing at this product design role, but I had a really patient mentor there who like kind of taught me the ins and outs of research, and design, and I worked on some really cool projects and dashboards for um, companies in China. So I'd have to like wake up at like crazy times, and the whole team was distributed around the world. And I really got an eye into like um, the world of like global logistics and shipping and all of the like tariffs and headaches that all come with that, right? It's a very complex world that we live in. Uh, so that was kind of my start when it came to um, product design. And then I was scrolling Twitter one day and I came across this account called, well, I came across Josh Puckett on Twitter. I had been following him for a while. I think I'd like listened to his like Design Details podcast back in the day. Um, and he was talking about this thing he was working on called Upper Study. And Upper Study is an apprenticeship program where you join in and you work with him and some other designers at a startup. You get hands-on experience, and then the startup gets, you know, a really awesome product designer that they end up hiring at the end of the process. So I got into Upper Study, and I really like I learned so much about product design at that point. Um, and ended up getting hired at this company called Operator just after I think it was like 3 or 4 months of this apprenticeship. Yeah. Um, so why the transition from software engineering to product design? Well, as soon as I saw like GPT-3 like writing code for people, I was like, oh, okay, it's over. Like
So
we're we're inventing our jobs out of existence. um, and so I really feel like critical thinking and like research and like these human level empathy and connection and like communication is going to be really more important going forward than just being like a software engineer, right?
few years ago, no matter which field you are, it is at least in the IT side, in the software side, or in the infrastructure side, it is required that you should know some kind of coding, right? No matter if you do code or if you do not code, if you still need to know. That was the rationale for everyone who are getting into computer science, right? But the scenario has completely changed. So for those who are getting into computer science or who wants to get into this industry, what would you suggest now that coding is slowly getting obsolete? There are platforms like no code, low code, where you don't have to code anything. You can come up with products without even coding, just drag and drop of that sort. So what do you say to them
For someone getting into the industry right now,
coming into the industry who loves coding, but the whole scenario in the industry changed because of the artificial intelligence.
hmm,
So what would you recommend, or what would you suggest them?
well, I have no idea what the future is going to look like. Um, I believe it's something that we have to decide together, and we have to, you know, as humans, decide whether we want human jobs to still be around. Uh, the reality is like machines can just learn faster and write more code faster than we can, right? At this moment in time, they still need more um, and they still need understanding of complex systems and design, right? I'm a designer, so of course I'd say that. But the I would say for anyone getting into the industry right now, it's a really fast paced industry, and I'm sure you felt this too, Azim. It's always changing. It always feels like there's something new you have to learn, and it always feels like you're falling behind, and it just changes so fast. And so all of the like coding skills I learned, um, all the tools that I learned, you know, 4 or 5 years ago back when I was in college are kind of obsolete now, right?
Obsolete today, yes.
Yeah, there's, you know, the languages change so fast, the tools change so fast, the build processes. The I will say, you know, a lot of the concepts I learned from a computer science degree have helped me, right? You know, lately I've been doing game programming, and just the amount of linear algebra I've had to use and geometry and calculus has just been like, wow, okay, it's cool to actually like have to use this stuff. Um, so go into it with the learner's mindset. Really just understand that like it's gonna change. That's the only constant, is that this thing just keeps changing. And don't be afraid, because I think we have to remain optimistic when it comes to all of this AI stuff. We have to remain um, we have to create the world that we want to see in the end, right? And I don't think a positive world is one where we've invented all of the jobs out of existence and humans have no more meaning, and we're not, we're just like existing in a world of pleasure where robots do everything for us, right? That's Wall-E, right? We don't want to live in Wall-E world for too long. So yeah, just, you know, be open-minded about it. And yeah, just strive to learn new things. Once you learn how to learn, you're unstoppable. Power in saying I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something I've been having to learn for myself,
So it is a stereotype in the industry that if you're talking to an Indian, if you're assigning a task to an Indian, most likely Indians like nod their heads. And it's really hard for, I mean, I can feel that. Like it's really hard to say no. Early on in my career, early on in my college life, when either professor asked me to do something in the assignment or my manager asked me to do something, I simply say yes, although I don't know much about it, in a fear that they would think that I don't know pieces that needs to be figured out. But it's really a good quality that we should all learn to say no if we don't know certain things. But it's okay to say no, and as a follow up, yeah, maybe I'll spend some time and learn about it. Maybe I'll get back to you on it.
Yeah, learning
So
how to say
the
no.
head nodding thing and saying yes to everything is kind of stereotyped.
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know. So in India, when people are saying things to us, right, we have this tendency, or when we are saying things, we have this tendency of nodding heads. Like, so there are okay, if you're saying this, if you're doing this, you're saying, yeah, okay, I'm agree with you. If you're saying this, I'm not agreeing with you. And when you're talking, you unconsciously move your head. So that's one thing that I kind of had to like force on myself to not to nod my head, because it might give you a wrong indication that either you are saying yes or you're saying no to certain things. So
So yeah, I I wonder if it's the difference between like agreeableness and like understanding, right? I feel it's important when you're talking to people to like recognize that I'm listening to what you're saying, right? I'm understanding, right? It's like the body language things that um that's my guess, is like maybe it comes from that. But also like India's a very polite country, and I feel like there's a lot of polite things that are taught that maybe don't work well for you in the business world necessarily.
yep, yep, is where I first came to know about the culture, where I came to know about friends like you, and it's a whole new ecosystem, like it's whole completely different. Our colleges were different, our type of education was different. I'll tell you this simple example. There wouldn't be any student in India who would dare to carry a cup of coffee into classroom, who would carry a cell phone into classroom, who would check on their cell phones when the professor is teaching. So it's a completely different thing. So the first thing that I realized, that I felt like liberated, like, okay, now I can bring coffee to class. Now I can bring my phone, check on phone, and open my laptop. I mean, it doesn't matter to professor, as long as I don't disturb the class, as long as I'm minding my business, no one's gonna do anything to you. So that's one
The
cultural
simple
shift.
things, yeah.
I attribute probably 90 to 95% of whatever my career is right now was built based off of the knowledge that I captured from hackathons. No questions and no argument there.
100%.
And whatever I learned in college was absolute when I was in college itself. So there you go.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the just throwing yourself in that environment is so important, and it's scary, right? It's totally scary if you don't have friends there, if you don't know what you're doing, even if you're like new to code or you don't know how to code at all, right? It can be scary, but um, like you said, it's so helpful. It'll pay off dividends forever once you've like found that community that you can like be a part of, right? Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
For me it was I don't know, for me it was all about just trying out things that would never make any sense in any other context outside of hackathons.
That's true.
Just for the love of coding or for the love of putting together something. And man, I there's nothing like that energy, right? Of like
That's true.
hackathons and like
That's true. Yeah, I
I
mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I wish like I could just still like grind for
Continue to do that.
72 hours straight and build something cool with friends. But unfortunately, like it doesn't like I don't know. My energy levels as I'm growing up can't keep up with that. And like the people I'm around aren't down to like do that for 72 hours. So it's
That
still
is
fun though.
so true. That is so true. I mean, remember, I mean, 36 hours, 48 hours, we were sleepless. We were having Soylents. We were having energy drinks. Soylent,
So
that's
much
where I got
Soylent.
introduced to Soylent. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Soylent's disgusting. I usually gauge my like psychological well-being on how appealing Soylent sounds at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. My best hackathon was in University of Illinois. Sorry, it was in UIUC and also in University of Pennsylvania. Remember, we went to Wharton School of Business. We had a picture that we posed in front of Wharton. That
I
was
love
good
that photo.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite photo of us, Azim. So
Yeah.
that whole hackathon was fun. I feel like we just had a good time then, right? That's the other thing too, is like people go to hackathons and they like really, really try to win, right? And I did that for a bit and I did win, but I also like had the worst time ever,
Wow.
like literal like blood coming from my eyes because I was like staring at screens for so long. But like, yeah, just getting out and seeing the city was so much fun. Way more of a fun hackathon experience for me.
Yeah. Winning was not even a thing, right? Like for the first 6, 7 hackathons, I probably have attended like 40 plus hackathons so far.
Dang.
First 6, 7 hackathons, it was just, it was just go to a hackathon, just see what people are doing, just get inspired from what they're doing, and collect some goodies, right? And t-shirts and whatnot. I mean, have you been closely observing what's happening in the AI world? Every other day there is a new solution. Hey, we have this GPT, we have this Bloomberg GPT, we have this
Oh
GPT,
yeah.
that GPT. World is crazy. This is unprecedented. I have seen the technology boom happening back then. Back then there was big data. Then
Hmm.
came cloud warehousing. Then came machine learning. At some
Hmm.
point of time, AI was also a thing, but it was slowly under the wraps. Then came cryptocurrency. Then came NFTs. Then came blockchain. But AI is unprecedented. Like we are actually
Yeah.
seeing products live right now.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on what's happening there?
it's been shocking. Like I remember when like NLP was like a new big thing back in like 2016 and we were like trying to figure out how to integrate that with our apps. But I'm very shocked at like the mainstream exposure to AI at this point. Um, Friends that I've never talked tech about with at all. They live in a completely separate world. They're, teachers and lawyers and stuff. They're getting exposed to it now. They're like, what like this AI stuff is crazy. What do you think? And they're like, it can write my college paper for me and all of that stuff, right? That's been really interesting to seeing people's reactions to it. And I think that's the scary part is like we are inventing away a lot of our jobs and creating something that like can just think faster than us and do knowledge work and creative work better than us. And that's what I'm really personally like worried about, right? Um, so I don't know. I think it's going to be, I think it's on us to really, really like slow down and stop and think about like, okay, we have this technology. What can we do about it? And I just don't think I don't think everyone knows all of the implications of like what could happen, right? There's um, like using it is really impressive and cool, but I don't think people always see the downsides of the technology. And I felt this way with crypto too, right? Like crypto has a lot of benefits, but it also has a lot of a lot of ways it can be used for malicious attacks on people. And yeah, I'm no expert, right? I'm definitely no expert here, but it's been really cool to see just the adoption of it all across, especially outside of tech, right? We're definitely in like a hype cycle too. I think a lot of these AI companies starting right now are not going to make it, but
Make it.
um, it'll be
Speaking of
interesting.
downsides, there is this common or most famous statement which says, okay, AI is going to take your job. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I like the future I see is like one where we just make art and spend time with our families and go outside and like work on our physical health. Um, and essentially, like, I think we're inventing ourselves out of capitalism. Um, like with Bloomberg GPT, all of these financial bots, they can just trade at a rate that is way faster than like any human can.
Human
So,
can do it.
um, I don't know. Like I said, I'm no expert, but the world I want to live in is one where we derive purpose from our connection with each other and our families, and not so much our like throwing away our lives into work just for the sake of like surviving, right? I feel like we're still very much in survival mindset as a species, and we live in like a world of abundance, but we live in fear and we live in greed, and we selfishly like put others down because we're hurt. And um, when we have an all-seeing, all-knowing AI that can solve those problems for us, right? Like there will be no reason that we need to do that anymore. And so I think our relationship on like what's meaningful for us is going to dramatically change, whether we want it to or not, right? It's happening. The box is open.
Yeah. 100% agreed. Lately, I've been also questioning myself, retrospecting myself. What are we chasing? Like, what is it? What is it? The ultimate goal here? Like, are we going to like keep on exploring? Uh, let's talk about technology. You'll keep on learning, keep on exploring new technology, keep on building. Are we missing out the core essence of us being humans, us being attached to people, as being doing humane things? Technology also is doing a lot of harm to the humanity. I mean, it's just look at the, I mean, I retrospect myself, like the amount of time that I spend on phone. If I look at the screen time, it depresses me. Like,
I mean, there's biological reasons why it's bad for us, right? Like staring at blue light all day is not good for our eyes, right? Sitting down all day is like the same as like smoking a pack of cigarettes. Um, so I think our children are gonna laugh at us for like sitting in front of laptops and inside all day, right? They're gonna be like, "Why did you do that? That's so bad for you." Um, but I think technology has the capacity to like be so good for us and like really make us feel good, right? Technology can also make us feel good. It's just the financial incentives involved create platforms that divide us and put in barriers in front of us and like try to enrage us. And they really feed on all of our like negative biases. And if we could build tech that doesn't feed off of that and create financial incentives for companies to not exploit that, we could live in a world where tech is wonderful for us. And you would want 24/7 screen time, right? Not screen time, but something else, right? You would want 24/7 like connectivity to all of your friends. And you would also want the right to privacy and the right to step away, right? And we're just not creating those systems, even though we have the technology, right? And I think the answer is really a human one. These human problems require human solutions. And it really is, it's not an app that you can build, right? You're not going to build an app that solves this. It's really like conversations and like getting people to understand why they feel so bad from scrolling Twitter all day, right? Um, it's very psychological. And the only thing we can really control is our perception. And so we just have to like shift our perception around like what technology is. And we're really the guinea pigs, Azim. Like we grew up with Facebook, we grew up with social media, right? Like we're the first batch, right? We're experiment one on like, what does this
yeah,
global connectivity do to our brains? Um, and it's like hasn't been good so far, frankly, hasn't been good so far. But
agreed,
it
agreed.
will get
Yeah.
better, right? It will get better. And yeah, we just have to be kind to each other, you know. A lot of people are really afraid and get more afraid as they get more exposed. And yeah, if we just come at it from a place of kindness and love, and we realize that, okay, like we're not all like splitting this one pie, but we can grow more pies, right? We live in this world of, we literally live in like an infinite universe. It's crazy that we're still squabbling about, you know, dress colors or whatever.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, whenever I feel down, thinking about a specific task that I couldn't accomplish, thinking about a specific piece of technology that I couldn't understand, I always think about the grand scheme of the interstellar space that we live in, and how small Earth is, how small we are,
So
how
small.
small the problem that we are thinking is a problem that we shouldn't be thinking about in the first place. So that's
Mm.
my comparison, and that makes me feel better, but thinking that this is not a problem at all. In a split second, the entire Earth can get collapsed, you know, with some kind of extraterrestrial thing hit on Earth, and we
Yeah,
are here sitting about a piece of thing that's bothering our brains, which actually ruins everyone's health.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well said. How afraid are you of like asteroids and like asteroid impact on Earth?
I'm not afraid. It's possible. Scientifically, it's possible. What I want is, if it happens, it has to happen in split second and everything goes zero. Like no one even recollects what's happened.
Right, you want to be at ground zero. You want to
Yeah,
vaporize
yeah.
instantly.
I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, see, when an asteroid hits, I just want everything go down. Like I don't even exist then. Like after after T1, I don't even exist.
Right.
It should
Yeah.
be that way, but not the way that it hits a specific section of the world, and we witness to see people suffering with that onset. So
That would be awful. That would be really, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think, you know, when you start to think about the infinite cosmos, right? Um, it really does. You're like, what's the point, right? What's the point? There's nothing out there. What really matters is like here on Earth. And so like F it, like it doesn't matter anyways. So I'm just gonna like go back to playing video games and whatever.
you
So I
only
can
live
see
once, live in the moment. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, I see that side of it too. But it's also like what, you know, you said earlier, like what is the core of like the human experience, right? Like what are we pointing towards, right? Um, and I think there's no answer, or if there is, we don't know. But um, like having curiosity, I think, is really important for survival, right? And it seems like everything we're doing is in service of survival at some level, right? That's just how evolution works. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what the answer is, but I do enjoy talking about it at parties, and that that can sometimes go well, and sometimes doesn't.
Yes.
I think it's just a lack of knowledge, right? Like our first of all, our education systems are not set up to like actually like teach us what we need to know. um, it's kind of like daycare, frankly, at least in the U.S. And that's going to have to change really soon. That's um, something that, but you know, my mom is actually a preschool teacher. She's a special education preschool teacher, and um, it's really shocking to see just like how underappreciated teachers are and how much work they have to put in. And I don't think people have
Agreed.
that understanding, right? I don't think people can empathize, or they don't care to empathize with teachers. And it's wild to me that we're underfunding generations of children that are going to perpetuate our society. And you know, you get
That's
out what
true.
you put in. You get out what you put in. And so we really need to shift away from like dumping millions of dollars into social apps that don't, you know, that fail after a year, right? And we should maybe move some of that money towards funding schools and
Education.
teachers, and really thinking about like, okay, how do you raise a kid, right? Like how do you raise a human? um we can't even agree on that.
Unfortunately, that's been the case in almost all the countries. I know the similar situations are happening in India too. Like this, the primary schools, elementary schools are really bad, but the type of investments that the governments make, or at least the capitalists make, are completely not related to the basic education of the kids. So yeah, I mean, it looks like
Yeah.
that's the case pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I see, my mom says like kids show up to class without clean clothes, like they literally have like shit in their pants, and they aren't fed, like their parents don't feed them if their parents are even there, right? Like some kids just like they wake up and their parents aren't even home and they just get on the bus, right? Or they really have like no one looking over them. And I think kids are strong, kids are smart, right? If we can just talk to them like they're mature and like they're, obviously you don't want to expose them to everything all at once, right? But they have the capacity, right?
That's true.
But yeah, they just don't have the. We're not spending our resources efficiently and wisely, and um, I really think it boils down to like our human egos and greed and like fear, and we don't need to fear, right? The only thing to fear is fear itself, right? Um, so that's really my answer um, to all of this. Like I said, no expert here. I'm a generalist. I'm a founder, product guy, whatever.
No,
Like, what is your reason for starting this, Azim?
uh, again, the social connection and the thought to educate people, the thought to uh, let as many as people know the information that you have, and inspire people. Like, there are people who have similar backgrounds as mine, similar backgrounds as you, and people who aspire to become XYZ, and they probably are lost with not having enough information. You never
Mm.
know, 20 years down the line or 30 years down the line, someone might find our video and get inspired and do good things and make better things and make this world a better place to live. So I'm being optimistic about that idea. So that's the rationale. There you go.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I think it's important.
Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. All right, I'll see you, Azim.